Thank you for joining me. My name is Kiki. I'm the owner of Eat More to Weigh Less. I am a trainer's trainer and I run a team of trainers, Team EM2WL, and we train other trainers as well as obviously our own personal clients how to fight the metabolism crashing, yo-yo dieting extremes that our society tends to promote like as the norm. So a lot of people, including myself, have been duped by the dieting industry. I essentially dieted myself fatter, and I know many of your clients, or maybe you, have ended up in that position as well. And that's what Eat More to Weigh Less is about. We teach you how to get off the metabolism yo-yo. I am about all things science, so I pride myself on going to all I pride myself on going to so many conferences and bridging the gap between the science and application so that in between when you got your training certification and when you get your CEUs, all the stuff in between that you don't understand, I help break that down for you. Oh, you have not watched the scope yet. And I saw, Omar, you said I need to make my titles shorter. Sorry, I know you have to like delete a lot lately. It seems like something just changed with that. I don't know what's up with that. So for those of you guys who are just joining, I just recapped who I am, so I'm going to jump right in. Today we're talking about defying your genetics with exercise, diet and exercise. Pretty much understanding what to expect and helping your clients to understand what they can and can't expect to change from a diet and exercise. Because sometimes they tend to, and I posted a scope about this not too long ago, they find like the ideal way that they want to look, and they just say like, oh yeah, I want to look like that, without any thought as to whether or not they can look like that person. So I want to talk about some of the things that you can expect to change with diet and exercise, and some of the stuff that you will have to just accept about yourself. So yes, if you have questions, go ahead and post them. If I don't get to them right away, you can always tweet them to me afterwards, or usually I spend the first like 5 to 7 minutes just getting the content out there for those that have to jump off, and then afterwards we go into Q&A. So either way, if you want to post your question, if I miss it, I will tweet it later or answer it in another scope. So the first thing to understand when it comes to diet and exercise is what we always talk about, and that's if you or your clients are doing cardio only, then they need to understand that doing that only for exercise means that they are going to simply become, good afternoon, they're going to become a smaller version of whatever they are currently. So if they are only doing cardio as their form of exercise, they may get smaller, especially if they're like low calorie dieting or whatever, but A, they typically will regain the weight, and B, they will find themselves just looking exactly the same. So they'll just shrink and still have all the same trouble zones and all the same areas. Hey Gina, thank you for joining and for inviting followers. And for those that are, yes, seriously. So we like to say at Eat More to Weigh Less, cardio for fun and weights to transform, because weightlifting is going to be the key to your transformation, which I will explain. A lot of people feel like that there are certain things about themselves that just don't change at all. And when they lift, they find out that they can. So some of the things that you can change when you are lifting is because lifting is about muscle. So when you're building muscle, people are surprised what areas change for the better. So one of those areas is obviously your glutes. That's one of the biggest areas that people notice they're changing. So whereas if you're only doing cardio, like maybe your pant size goes down, but if you were dealing with like a pancake butt factor, you're still dealing with one afterwards. But if you're lifting, one of the first things that people notice is the change in how their jeans fit. And that's because they're getting a lift in that area. So you can change things that are muscle related. So your butt will lift and get perkier, even if you typically don't tend to have one. Now, some people may have to work harder than others for this to happen, but that is something that can actually help because your glutes are a muscle. Like that is one of the biggest muscles, are the muscles in your legs. So you can look for changes in your butt. You can look for changes, like I said, also in your legs. So maybe if you don't really have shapely legs, like I said, if you're just doing cardio for your exercise, then you're still not going to have shapely legs, even if they get smaller. So you'll get smaller, but then you'll still like not want to wear shorts or whatever because you're not happy with the firmness of your legs. So those things can change. You can change. Even a lot of my clients are surprised that they go up in, and guys, maybe you don't want to hear this, or maybe you do, they go up in cup sizes with their bras because there is a pec muscle. So there's a muscle under the breast tissue that when you lift, it builds that up. So it actually makes them a little bit perkier, which is another benefit to lifting. So it will change the shape of your body when you're lifting. Anything that's muscle related is going to change shape when you're adding in lifting and when you are eating and exercising right, which you see the link that keeps popping up there. It's also in my bio. There's a whole series of videos and eating and exercising stuff that I take you through there if you're not familiar with how to match your eating and exercising to your workouts. So you can click on that or go to that after this is over. So anything muscle related, your arm muscle, the tissue under the pecs, no, it's not a women's room only. I'm going to get to all of it too, but guys deal with the same thing. So the stuff that's muscle related, same thing with your legs and stuff like that. Anything muscle related, you can change. There is the first place it loses your chest. That's because most people don't realize that for women, your breasts are fat. So when you lose fat, you lose there too. That's the reason why you do want to build muscle there, because you will also, you'll lose the fat there. So you want to try to replace it with a little bit of muscle. So whatever fat is there is still kind of lifting up, being lifted up by the muscle. So you do still want to do that. But that's the thing, is that if there's just fat, when you get rid of fat, if there's no muscle there afterwards, then there's no tone or whatever it is that you're looking for. So remember, anything that's muscle based can be changed, but you have to figure in your genetics. So there's certain things that maybe workouts will make them sound like something, like, so maybe you're doing, a lot of people do like yoga to become long and lean, which, yeah, it's a technicality, but you cannot make your muscles any longer or leaner than they genetically are. So you have to take that into consideration. The length of your muscles, your bone structure, anything that's genetic or bone based will not change. So that means even something as simple as how your abs look when you lose your fat, they may not look like somebody else's. Some people just won't ever get a six pack because genetically their abs don't do that. That doesn't mean that they won't get a flat stomach or it won't still look good for them, but genetically your abs will look a certain way. Your hip width doesn't change if that's bone structure based. So something that a lot of my clients don't realize when they're trying to oh, I need to get rid of these hips. Maybe if you have extra fat, you may be able to get it down a little bit, but if you're truly pear shaped, those are your genetics. So you need to focus more on building muscle in your upper body to balance out the bone structure that you have in your lower body. So I am too, Tara. I'm naturally pear shaped. So that's something that a lot of people don't know, because I built my body in a way that looks more like an hourglass now than a pear, because I'm naturally a pear. But instead of focusing on trying to whittle away my legs and just oh my gosh, I need to get rid of these legs, I focused on building my upper body, and then it naturally balanced things out. So most people don't realize that that's my natural shape. So I had to build the V-taper in my back so that my back width matches my hips, and so my shoulders are out a little bit more. So now when you look, it's very balanced, whereas before it was so just one of those things that people don't realize. So that's something that you can change. You can change your upper body if you're a pear. Your lower body may be very, very, very stubborn, so you have to give it so much time. But in the meantime, work on building your upper body. You cannot change, obviously, your height. So someone that's like me, it would make very little sense for me to compare myself to the body of someone who, I'm 5'2" on a good day. It would make very little sense for me to compare my body to someone who's maybe 5'7", 5'8". Their muscle length and everything is going to be completely different than mine. Why do women stop working out when they got the man? That is a good question. And ladies, you need to take note of that. Sometimes we start having all kind of excuses, and we're like, oh, we got the kids now and all of that. Now, not saying the guys don't do it too, but ladies, I know we have the kids. It's a lot harder for us, but that's the reason why we have to come up with ways to lose the fat that's a lifestyle that the whole family can enjoy, because we still want to look good for our men. you want to keep the relationship going after you got him. Don't just try to look good to get him. You started after you got married. That's good, Gina. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can't change. You can't change your genetics. Yes, that's why we have DJ and Rapper. Follow Lyndon and Vanessa because they are going to help you to get your marriage right. And then I'm going to help you to look better so that, yeah, you guys stay attracted to each other for long periods of time. So you cannot change anything that's genetic. You can't change your, thank you, Kevin. You can't change your hip width, your height, your length of your muscles. Different people's muscles are shaped differently. You'll notice like some people, like even with biceps, some people can get like a peak on their bicep and some people don't. It's just like always like really rounded. Some people can build muscle faster than others, but that doesn't mean that everyone cannot. And thickness and health. That doesn't mean that everyone can't build it. It's just that the way that it looks on you is going to be different. But there are things that everyone can do, and there are things that we have to know are just individual to us. So yes, like thigh gaps, that is genetic. People are like going crazy over this like whole thigh gap thing like the last like 3 years or so, 5 years. And it doesn't make it, it's just their pelvic bone structure. That's not something that you can like change. And the same thing with a lot of these pictures of people with like abs. Like unless you have like a rib removed, you're not going to look like those pictures. So it's important to understand what your bone structure is. It's important to understand how you always look like. Maybe look at your parents and your aunts and all of them and not necessarily use it as an excuse like, oh, well, look at my genetics. I'm just going to be this way. But understanding, okay, which part of that can I work with? Which part of that is like something that I can change and what do I have to kind of work around? Because like some people are naturally thin and they have to work harder to gain muscle and get like more like curvy muscles. And then other people have to work harder, like me, to be smaller, to be lean. I'm endomorph, if you're familiar with body types, which means that I naturally carry a higher body fat percentage. Like that's my genetics. So that's something that I know. I'm not going to compare myself to someone who naturally carries a very, very low body fat percentage. I know that I have to work harder to keep my body fat percentage low, just the way they have to work harder to be able to develop muscle as easily as I do. Yeah, but that's a whole nother scope about the wrist being removed. But it just goes to show between that and the photoshopping of these people, like you just don't even know. How do you figure what out, Tina? I'm sorry. We're in the Q&A portion now for anybody that did have questions. If I didn't get to your question earlier, if you want to repost it, I'm going to spend maybe the next like 5 minutes or so answering questions and then I will hop off of here. So I'm not sure what you were asking. How can you figure that out? Your body type? Yes. As you see from Big Smith, he is hungry and I am the reason why. You're endomorph, Tamisha? I am too. That's the key, is not compare yourself to someone else. Absolutely. If you don't know what their body type is, because some people don't realize that, you know, they may see a person that is very muscular and not know if that person is what's considered a mesomorph, which is they build muscle and they lose fat very easily, which is what most bodybuilders and fitness competitors are. You will have the most endomorphs are the power lifter types. We are very strong, which is like how I am, very strong. It's easy to build strength. And we do build muscle, but we also pretty much gain fat at the same rate. So losing the fat is a little bit harder for us. And then you have the ectomorph, which is like the naturally skinny person. That's the friend that like can eat everything that they want and they don't gain a pound. So that person is considered like an ectomorph. Tina, I heard you ask about that. We have more information about this on the site. One of our trainers, Trish, she did a great write-up on body types and eating for your body types, and you can find that at em2wl.com. You'd probably want to go to, there's a search engine down like at the bottom of the page and type in, I guess, body types. I don't know what the actual link is for it. So it's going to be different for everybody, but that's pretty much how you know. So there's like some go by like fruit shapes, like apple and pear and banana. Apple means you have more in the middle, pear means you're more hippie, and then like banana means you're more just like straight up and down. As far as the like somo types is what they're called. The somo types are ectomorph, which is naturally thin. They have a hard time putting on weight. Endomorph puts on weight very easily. They're very strong. and they they gain fat and muscle very easily, but they lose muscle lose fat very, very slowly. And then you have the mesomorph, which is pretty much the best of both worlds. They lose fat pretty easily with with decent diet and working out, and they gain muscle like at the drop of a dime. So like my husband's mesomorph, and for a very, very long time that would disturb me because he could not work out for like a year and then come join me for like a month and then look like great, and it would really upset me. But it was just something that I had to learn about myself. Like my family, we are endomorphs, which my my oldest son refers to as fat buff. Yeah, I'll let that one sink in. What's your take on resistance bands? I like them. I like resistance bands. I don't use them exclusively, but I do add them to my workout plans here and there. So yeah, that's my husband saying we use them. Someone you know said that you were a banana. You didn't know how to take it. Are you like pretty much like straight up and down? Like you don't have a lot of curves? Fat buff tar. I know. I kind of wanted to punch him, but he was talking about my brother when he was saying it, and then he said something. He was talking about my father, and I kind of realized that like I'm in that same category because we all have that same body type where we may have muscle, but you can't always see it because there's like almost always a layer of fat right over it. Yes, Omar, fat buff. Like, yeah. So we had to have a talk about that one. So he makes sure not to include me in that when he says his whole fat buff statements, but I know I have the exact same body type as him. What's the maximum amount of time someone should lift per week? That it depends on you. How many times a week you can get to the gym. I would say if starting off 2 to 3 is good for most people. When you get to the point where you are an advanced lifter, then it needs to be in a headline. When you get to the point where you're an advanced lifter, you can lift a little bit more. Right now, I prefer lifting most days because I don't like doing a lot of cardio. So I like to lift like 4 to 5 days a week. But starting off, you don't really need to do probably more than like 2 to 3 full body workouts. Men burn fat faster. They burn fat faster for a very good reason, and it's one of the reasons that we're always talking about, and that's because they have more muscle. So women, we're so afraid of muscle, but then we get so upset that our husbands lose weight. So like we go on these plans with them, they lose weight like way faster than we do. We get really upset, and we're like, like what the crap? Like the first day, the first week we did okay, and then after that they just keep going and we plateau. It's because they have muscle and we don't. And they have more of it and we don't. And they care about the scale less than we do. So that means that when they're carrying all this extra water weight from all the extra muscle that they're carrying, they're typically not freaking out about it as much. Therefore, they're able to continue building more muscle, which makes their metabolism even faster, which means they burn fat even faster. Ladies, please never bore your date out with how you want to look at the gym, or you're saying don't talk about how you want to look? Screw the scale. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we take our focus off the scale, we could get a lot of those benefits too. And when I learned that, that's when I got my edge on old Hubster on here that keeps chatting about, bragging about his being a mesomorph, because he kept slacking on his workouts. And guess what I was doing? Building muscle. And guess what happened? He started hating on my results because not only was I building muscle, but I started losing fat faster than him because he was losing muscle. So, granted, once he started again, testosterone took over and he quickly started gaining muscle again and caught up to me. But it was good while it lasted, and it's what helped him to get back to it. So that's one of those things that you have to realize. So that's why we have to stick it out, ladies. It sucks, and we're like, the scale. But see, I used to punk him. He started working out and he realized how strong I was, and he started seeing how much muscle I was getting, and he was like, I need to get in on this. I did put him on blast, huh? What's the best way to rebuild your core after the babies? After babies, you want to, planks are really good, but it depends on, the advice differs because it depends on if you had diastasis recti, which is when the ab muscle splits, which happens to some of us with C-sections or when you have like ab surgeries that actually cut through the middle of the muscle and then the muscle doesn't reconnect. So then it makes it harder to, essentially you have like a hernia sometimes, and a lot of women don't realize that they have it after a baby. And so when that muscle splits, what happens is there's always stuff pushing through that muscle, which makes it so that like even when we feel like we're having progress, we sit down and it just like your gut just like goes out. So you need sometimes to help rebuild that. If you don't have that, then it just takes a lot of work. It just takes a lot of work. So you have to, using weights isn't even a bad idea when you're rebuilding your core, and just working it at a higher volume than necessary, not necessarily every day, but like 2 to 3 times a week, working it just as you would any other muscle, giving it rest days, but also challenging it, doing maybe like 2 to 3 sets of the exercises that you're doing. And most importantly, obviously you need to make sure that your nutrition is in order, because first and foremost, if your nutrition isn't in order, then it really doesn't matter. And the place where it's going to always show the most is the belly. It's always going to show improve if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing nutrition wise. So make sure you're eating enough protein and enough fiber and drinking enough water. So if your nutrition is not on point, then it doesn't matter what workout you do really, because it won't matter. So that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to feed this hungry guy that is so supportive of me on here. Yes, nutrition is such a struggle, Gina. It is, but it's the missing link. People don't realize, and they think like, oh, I'm gonna get it together. You know, like, I know I need to do better with my eating, but, and it's like, no, there's no but. That's first and foremost. So there's no but. There's no like, I need to do it, but I'll try this first. Get the nutrition together first. Remember the hierarchy of nutrition, and I'm going to go out with that. If you're new to me and you've never heard it before, or whether you've heard it 100 times before, you need to have it drilled in your head. The hierarchy of nutrition. Number 1 is nutrition. If you have nothing else to do, you can't work out at all, get your nutrition in order. Number 2 is nutrition. If you have nothing else to do, get your nutrition in order and double check it. Number 3, if you have nothing else, get your nutrition, get your nutrition. Number 3 is to lift. You want to do something that's going to build muscle and increase your metabolism. Number 4, fourth on the hierarchy. That means that after all these other things are done, so nutrition, lift, then HIIT type exercises where those are going to help you maintain your muscle mass. They won't necessarily build more, but it helps you maintain your muscle mass, helps keep your metabolism going along. And then last on that hierarchy is extra cardio. So most people do it in reverse. They start with cardio and then maybe they'll do some HIIT and then they start lifting and then they work on their nutrition. Don't flip it. Do it in the start at the top, get your nutrition in order. And someone just says sleep, so on point. If you're not getting enough sleep, please don't work out. Okay, that's keeping it real, and that's a scope for another time. But if you are not getting enough sleep, do not work out. Don't skip sleep for a workout, because not sleeping is stress to your body. Working out is stress to your body. That is putting your body in stress overload. And yeah, I'm going to have to be out on that point, because the sleep thing is just like a whole nother episode. You need to make sure that you are training your body how to bring the cortisol levels down, or else fat loss is like last on your body's agenda. So I'm not even going to get started on it. That's a scope though for another time. I will write that down to scope about it. I'm going to go feed this hangry guy. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye everybody.